Welcome this evening. I want to call the meeting to order, 7 p.m. For tonight's meeting in attendance, we have all board members except Mrs. Skomersky. She will not be able to with us tonight. With that, I would please ask that you rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we're pleased to welcome some guests tonight. We'll get to that in a few minutes, but I want to start off with welcoming back our students. I see Katie and a new person who's joining us this year, and I know Ryan. Good to see you guys. So we'll kick it off with our Columbia Student Council. So
Good
go
evening.
ahead.
Good evening. First of all, just being back has really raised everyone's spirits. So far this year, we've had 2 meetings, and our first event was freshman orientation, where we had a group of students leading tours for freshmen and new students and answering questions in small groups while staying socially distant. We are also planning to have a student council apparel sale within the next few weeks, and we already have a committee of designers right now working on the clothing.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. Katie?
Hi. So just like Ryan said, it's really great that everyone's back. We're all super excited to be here. And our very exciting piece of news tonight is that we have been approved to do our annual bridge painting. So instead of like our normal thing, we usually paint to a homecoming theme. This year we're changing it up a little bit, and we're going to do Columbia Positivity. So each class is going to pick a different motto or quote that spreads some sort of positivity, and they're going to have matching t-shirts with their bridges just to spread a little bit of hope around our district and community. So we're planning to do that on October 1st, and we're going to do small groups so we're able to follow all of the COVID protocol, and we're really looking forward to that. And that's all we have tonight.
Great. That sounds wonderful. We're looking forward to seeing that, and I hope it is a big success for you. So, well, thanks, Katie. Thanks, Ryan. You're welcome to stick around if you want, but probably sign off. So take care. Good night. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye-bye. So now we'll go to our public forum, and just to remind the public that we have an email box set up. Ms. Wager will monitor that for any comments. Residents, students, employees, and business representatives of the East Greenbush Central School District may address the board on matters concerning programs and/or operations of the district, other than matters involving personnel. Members of the board do not directly respond to citizen concerns during the public forum. If a response is appropriate, either the president or superintendent will contact the individual in the near future. Those persons wishing to address the board will be recognized by the chair of the meeting and should state for the record their name and address or affiliation with the district or business. While the board does not wish to infringe upon free speech protections, it must be stressed that the visitors forum is not deemed to be an open forum. The board president will conduct the forum for the orderly and efficient operation of board business. In addition, any remarks which may be considered defamatory or stigmatizing are prohibited and will be declared out of order. So now it's an opportunity for staff to, or folks in the community to email us. Usually we give them a few minutes to do that. And Ms. Wager, do we have anything at this point? Okay. So we'll come back to that if we do get some emails in terms of the public forum. And we do have the second public forum that occurs later on in the meeting after most of the business is done. And if there's an opportunity to email during that time, please feel free to do so from the community. With that, I'm pleased to go to the next section and turn it over to our superintendent to recognize one of our teachers at Columbia High School. Mr. Simons.
Good evening, everyone. It is my privilege to welcome the community to our board meeting this evening, and an even greater privilege to recognize one of our Columbia High School teachers, Chelsea Dyer, who has accomplished something that is remarkably distinguished in her career, and we're so proud of her. She has been named by the New York State Education Department as a finalist for the New York State Teacher of the Year recognition. And Chelsea is here with us, along with members of her family and a gentleman who is her former high school principal, David Kissick from Lansingburg. And we want to welcome you. And when, Chelsea, you come up after I say a little bit about your accomplishment, I'll hand you the microphone if you can introduce your family to us and your friends who are here with you to recognize you this evening. So several months ago, Mr. McHugh came to me and recommended that Chelsea Dyer be submitted and nominated for the New York State Teacher of the Year Award. And he couldn't say enough about the contributions that Chelsea has made to our district, and particularly to the advantage of our students, and not only in the classroom, but also in her role as a student council advisor, unified basketball advisor and coach, and a number of different things that she has accomplished. Chelsea has been a teacher with our district in the English department since September of 2008. And during that time, she has taught not only grade 10 Regents courses, grade 11 Regents courses, she has taught modern literature and college preparation too, and creative writing. And when we looked at the biography that Chelsea submitted to the New York State Education Department, we went way back to when Chelsea was a little child, and she told the story of how she liked to play teacher with her friends and among her family members. And so I thought that was pretty touching in terms of always knowing that you wanted to be a teacher. And from my conversations with students, my interactions with Chelsea and her peers, I know that she has that passion for education that's so essential to motivate the kids. Kids are fortunate to be in your classroom. Your colleagues are fortunate to work with you every day, and your administration is extremely proud of your accomplishment. It is not an easy process to be nominated. There's a lot of work required of the nominee. She had to submit a biography, she had to submit virtually an essay in her application, and she had to interview. And among all of the teachers in New York State, Chelsea is on the top. And we're so proud of her as a Columbia High School teacher. Let me just read a few things in addition to her work as a teacher that she has done for our district. As I mentioned, she has been a unified sports advisor and coach. She helped our unified basketball team compete in the Special Olympics in Seattle, Washington. She's been named by the Capital Region YMCA as an outstanding educator in the past. She's received from the district a Turtle Award for always being willing to stick her neck out to serve students. She has taught in our freshman academy for our most at-risk 9th graders. She's taught 10th grade, 11th grade, college level courses. She's involved in the total school community effort within our district in our community pep rallies, holiday toy drives, high school adoptive family initiatives, breast cancer awareness initiatives, engaging with students through the student council, community-wide yard sales, and the list goes on and on and on. So at this time, I'd like to invite Chelsea Dyer to come up and be recognized by our Board of Education as a finalist for the New York State Teacher of the Year. And I want to thank her on behalf of the entire community for not only being an outstanding teacher, but for the level of enthusiasm, commitment, and dedication she brings to her classroom and to the outside activities that she's involved with every day. So at this time, once I put my mask on, I'll invite Chelsea Dyer to come up and say a few words if she's comfortable doing that, and then introduce her family. Chelsea Dyer.
Thank you so much. That sounded more impressive than I feel, so thank you. I just want to thank my husband is here, and my mother-in-law and father-in-law for coming. And I do also have to shout out two other guests that came. So Heidi Gleason was actually my high school teacher in Lansingburg, and now she's my colleague, one of my best friends, but I really appreciate you coming. And I have to shout out Mr. Kissick, who was my high school principal, who was just one of the best men ever. But I had really good examples, so I wanted to share this with them. So I really appreciate both of you guys coming. So thank you again.
Deserved. We do have a resolution that we'll to read and ask the board to formally commend and provide an accommodation for Chelsea's accomplishment.
Awesome. No problem. I'm very pleased to know Chelsea helped my children out, and she's a wonderful teacher, and very proud of you and what you've done on behalf of your career so far, and more great things to come, I'm sure. So I'll read the resolution. Whereas Chelsea Dyer, Columbia High School English teacher, has brought distinction to herself, faculty, and the East Greenbush School District as being recognized as Teacher of the Year finalist, and whereas Chelsea Dyer represents the finest qualities of commitment, enthusiasm, and talent in instruction of students, and whereas the Board of Education wishes to honor and recognize Chelsea Dyer as an exemplary teacher, now therefore, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education and Superintendent of Schools hereby congratulates Chelsea Dyer on her recognition as a 2021 Teacher of the Year finalist, dated September 23rd, 2020. So I need a motion to approve that. Mr. Mann, second. Deanna, all those in favor? Congratulations, Chelsea. And like I said, much more great things to come, I'm sure. So glad you could join us and your family. Thank you for coming. Mr. Kissick, an old friend from LaSalle days. Great to see you here. Appreciate you coming. And yep, right. So thanks again. Any other comments? Board members? Say a few words. Good. Okay. Deanna?
So my daughter, I told her that you were getting this award, and she had you for Modern Lit, and she said that you taught her a lot of life skills, not just modern literature, like some business skills. So she was very excited. I just wanted to say congratulations.
Thanks, Deanna. Anyone else this time? All right. So I'm really pleased that you brought your family here and you came in person and accept this award. And thank you, Mr. Simons, Mr. McHugh, for nominating Chelsea, and well deserved. And thank you again for all you do. So, all right.
One thing I would add, although you're always welcome to stay for the meeting, I'll provide you with a transition and a graceful opportunity to exit with your family.
Thanks everybody for coming. Good to see you again. Yep.
Notice how many people from Berg are in this room right now.
There's a lot of Lansingburg folks, huh? Yeah, right. Thanks again for coming, guys. Appreciate it. So we'll now move to the next topic, which is forefront in a lot of people's mind, is the update from Mr. Simons on school reopening.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bruno. Can everyone hear me okay virtually on the meeting? Sarah Hoffman, can you hear me? Very good.
Okay.
So I want to give the board and the community an update on the reopening. We are in our second week of school reopening, and that is good, and we are making great progress. One of the things that I want to emphasize that under our hybrid program, although we're in our second week, all of our students are actually that are participating in the hybrid have been here for 3 days of in-person instruction. And this is our second day of our virtual live instruction. And so our staff, our students, our families are still acclimating to the reopening, but it is going very well given the point that we're at. So I'm very pleased with everyone's support and the positive comments we've received from staff and families. I'm also very pleased with the feedback that we've received in order to continue to improve our program. Today was the second day of Virtual Wednesday. Virtual Wednesday involves all of our students participating in remote instruction through live video instruction. The survey that we did for grades 6 through 12 provided the district with a lot of good understanding as to some of the issues that our students and our families may have experienced during the first Virtual Wednesday last week. As I shared that survey with the board and I shared it with the administrators, and we'll be talking more about it tomorrow, there were some suggestions and recommendations that we sent out through Mr. McHugh's office yesterday to our teachers. One thing that we noted in the survey was that while the majority of our students connected successfully, there were some challenges in some cases with volumes of emails going to students and parents. So we're encouraging our teachers to post as much as they can through the Google Classroom format, which would remove the idea that you have to send a lot of separate emails, just so that the parents can adjust, the students can adjust, and everything is in one place in terms of expectations. Additionally, we reviewed some of the connectivity issues that caused students to be bounced out of Google Meets, and in some cases, our staff out of Google Meets. And we believe that that primarily was a Google issue because other districts across the country were experiencing that. But we did make some adjustments to antennas, for example, at Red Mill. And we have also received some of the newer cameras that were delivered to high school and full remote teachers today. Those new cameras can be plugged into PC, which is wired in the classroom, removing any concerns regarding Wi-Fi. We're expecting another shipment of those cameras next week to be able to extend those down to the middle school. But I think overall, that went well today. I visited 3 buildings this afternoon. They all gave me positive reports regarding the virtual Wednesday, that some of the challenges of last week were much better, and I appreciate the teachers and Peter Goodwin's department, for addressing those issues. Additionally, we have full remote students who are participating. We did receive some positive feedback from a full remote parent today. At the middle school and high school level, we're emphasizing to students and parents the importance of applying the same standards that you would if you were in the classroom, in school physically, regarding attendance, regarding timeliness of assignments, regarding showing up to class. It's no different if you're participating virtually than if you were in person. You got to be to class on time. You've got to remain in class for the whole time unless you're excused, and you're going to be marked in attendance. We'll be sending out some clarification of those expectations within the next week, just to remind some of our students when they are participating in remote instruction, the same rules apply that would apply if you were in a regular classroom. And technology access has gone very, very well. Mr. Goodwin's department has distributed how many devices to assist with Wi-Fi? 80 devices at this point to families who are experiencing issues with their Wi-Fi connectivity. So under teaching and learning, those issues are going really well. I'm going to ask Mr. McHugh if he would like to add anything, particularly in the area of our ENL students and our special education students.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. Specifically, in regards to our English language learners, our 5 ENL teachers are trying to really have as much in-person, face-to-face contact with our families. A lot gets lost in translation. So we're really reaching out. We're using, last year we used LexiKey translation services. This year we added LingualX, so we have 2 translation services. The neat thing about LingualX is it's almost, in essence, Uber. You just really go onto the app, you request a translator for whatever language you're looking for, and instantly, within usually 1 to 2 minutes, somebody responds and takes that call, and then you have that translation service. So if we need to call from the nurse or if we need to call from the main office, we're able to do that. We had an incident, for example, with technology. It wasn't that the technology wasn't working properly. It was that they really didn't understand how to use the device. So ENL teacher, a technician on the spot, reaching out to that family to try to help support our students. So in those particular areas, we're really trying to reach out and have that contact and not let anything go too long without addressing it, trying to address it immediately.
I know that Kara Harrington is on the meeting. I know that Ms. McGrath was going to be late to the meeting. So I don't know, is Molly out there?
I don't believe she's on yet.
So Kara, this is your first opportunity on the fly to address the board regarding how things are going with our special education students.
I know that some students that are remote are getting the direct instruction through the classroom. It seems to be going very well. The students are participating. I was able to observe the other day in the high school skills class, a social skills group, and the students were participating via video. The students were so excited that the students were on camera and they were excited to see each other. So that was a great opportunity for me to see that in live action. We do have some of our students in our self-contained classes returning just because it's better for their learning style. So we're also happy to see that they are returning to school and they're going to be in person, and the teachers are really excited about that. To my knowledge, I think everything's going smoothly. You know, if there might be specific student issues that we work through, but we'll work through them as they come along.
Thank you, Kara. I also visited at Green Meadow a team meeting of the special education staff this afternoon, and these were staff members that work with primary age, kindergarten, first grade age transition students, and they said that all of the students were connecting today, which was an excellent thing to accomplish. So I think overall, in terms of special education and E&L, which is one of the state's targeted areas, we're doing really well at making sure that the communication is occurring to keep those kids and families connected. In the area of parent communication, Mr. Adam has sent out today a letter regarding the survey that was submitted and some of the things that we are doing as a result of the survey on virtual Wednesdays. Additionally, we received a suggestion from Michelle Skomersky to see if we could send texts out reminding the students' families to do the health screening. Thankfully, Todd Witherell last week, who works in our data department and has done a remarkable job, had School Messenger all set up by A/B hybrid groups, which was a task in and of itself. So we had that capability and we started it on Monday. And I appreciated the suggestion, but also the fact that Todd was prepared to help us to do that. In the area of health and safety, I had a meeting yesterday with the directors, supervisors, and the assistant superintendents and central office staff. Mark Noeth reported at that meeting that all of the busing is going very well. There is room on the buses, even within the social distancing of 22 kids on a 66 passenger bus to accommodate more kids. I think initially when we surveyed families about whether or not they were going to need transportation, some families decided that they would transport their children to school. But as we're learning about the impact of the full remote kids on buses, we do have room to safely accommodate and work within the guidelines to have more children bused. So if there is an issue, we'd ask folks to contact Mr. Noeth, but that is going very well. The cleaning and disinfecting between the cleaning of the seats between the runs and the disinfecting in the evenings is going very, very well. And the entry and exit procedures have gotten better every day in terms of students coming off of the bus, socially distancing, and entering the school for their temperature checks and showing their screenings. There were some issues with the screening tool that needed to be ironed out after the first week in terms of the data that we were getting. Some of the data was inaccurate. We didn't want to call parents of students we knew had done the screening, but I believe that issue has been fixed. Is that right, Mr. Goodwin? So on Friday, we didn't call parents because there was a test run by Mr. Harkin, and many of the students that were on the list that hadn't done it did it. So we didn't want to upset folks. And so that has been fixed as of this week. By all reports from principals and staff, the mask wearing is going very well. Students are complying with masks. Staff is providing mask breaks as aligned with our plan. There are only a small number of students who are medically excused from wearing masks in the district. Out of 4,000 students, it's about 3 or 4 that are medically excused. Staff is doing a remarkable job reminding students of social distancing, wearing the masks. I've been at the high school in the early mornings during first and second period, and I can tell you the high school is remarkably peaceful. It always is a positive climate, but it's been remarkably peaceful. And we've been able to witness activities such as a socially distanced band rehearsal, socially distanced chorus rehearsal. We watched students go up staircases that were appropriate for going up and down those that were marked for going down. And overall, the level of compliance with the safety rules, both at the high school and the middle school, is going very, very well. Adjustments were made on day 2 and day 3 for the procedures at Goff Middle School. Everyone here knows that the drop-off has always been a problem at Goff Middle School, and the pickup changes have been made to expedite the movement of the students into the school, as well as the staging of parking in the afternoon at the Little League and girls softball field parking lots, and that has gone better. Temperature checks are being done. We are still figuring out, in some cases, the thermometers. The thermometers are tricky in some sense. There's a feeling that in some cases, individuals operating the thermometers need to wait 7 to 9 seconds for the thermometers to reset before they do the next temperature check on the next child. And there are in some cases, there's a feeling that the outside temperatures are influencing the temperature reads. So in the case of the middle school and the high school, Mrs. Wager has researched some of the thermal scanning devices that can be utilized to expedite temperature checks, and we have 6 of those on order. Those will be primarily used at the middle school and the high school, and as we move into cooler weather, I think it'll be more convenient to use those and then use the handheld thermometers at the same time, but also as an additional check on temperatures. The County Department of Health has assigned a contact person for all Rensselaer schools. Her name is Carissa, and she has been contacting us on a regular basis. Currently, myself, Marissa Cannon, and Molly McGrath are sharing COVID-19 coordinator responsibilities till such time as we can find a nurse. How that process is working is every day prior to me submitting the data in the Department of Health website, Marissa and or Molly have already conferred with principals and nurses regarding any issues regarding students who have been sent home who are symptomatic. And we have to enter into that system enrollment data for every school. A division of that enrollment data, students who are participating remotely, students who are participating in person. We have to enter in teaching staff separately from non-teaching staff, and then divide that into teachers who are working within the school, working remotely, non-instructional staff working within the school, working remotely. And then we report any issues regarding positive cases. In general, those numbers stay at 0 and are already pre-populated into the portal. And now we're reporting any instances in which the district has referred a child or a staff member to the Department of Health or to the physician. So the nurses are playing a role in that. The principals are playing a role in that. That data is coming to Marissa and Molly, and we are sending it into the portal. The state did send out letters to superintendents today indicating that they did not do their required data reporting. In many cases, we have found across we didn't get one of those letters, which was good. That was welcome news this morning at 8:30 that I didn't get one. I didn't even know there was one. But when I joined the Questar superintendent's meeting, I found out all about it. We have learned that those letters are inaccurate, and in some cases, the superintendents of those districts have the email verifications that they entered the data. So NISCUS is intervening on behalf of school districts in regard to that, but in some cases, those letters were sent to districts who have been in compliance. We did not get one, and we are in compliance. Cleaning and disinfecting. I have spoken directly with Paul Bickle as well as some of the head custodians. I've spoken to Jim here at the high school and Jim at the middle school, the larger buildings. And in general, they say that the substitute cleaners are doing a good job, that it's working out really well, and that the misters have really helped. We do have a number of additional appointments for substitute cleaners on the agenda tonight. Those will make the job easier. The custodians are aware that once we get in a little further into this reopening, we may have to reevaluate the amount of staff that is being assigned those extra hours, and we will be giving a report to the board every month, once a month, on any overtime costs that we may be incurring. We are close to the agreement with the CSEA regarding that, how those hours would be determined, and I think, Marissa, we're very close on that. Is that right? So, moving to athletics. We are in our third day of athletics, and I have to say that Mr. Leonard, Sean Leggett, our trainer, and all of our coaches are really doing a serious job at trying to implement all of the New York State Department of Health and New York State Public High School Athletic Association guidelines as we reopen sports. The practices, by all reports, have gone well. Those are reports that I hear from students as well as coaches and our athletic director. We had a parent meeting on Monday evening at which a team outlined many of the considerations regarding the guidelines, and we were joined at that meeting by Dr. Albert, who's been a tremendous resource in helping us implement the COVID-19 guidelines in all areas, including sports. Sean Leggett, Mike Leonard, myself, Mr. McHugh, were all part of a panel. Mr. Leonard did a presentation on the guidelines, and then we had a question and answer session. We are not able to provide busing to practices, particularly challenging on days when students are in remote learning. Thus far, I have not heard any reports of students not being able to get to practice. We've encouraged our parents to work together, to carpool, and to help our kids get to practices. The buses, we need more buses now than we've needed in the past, and those buses would not be able to pick up kids from the entire area of the district to go to practices and get back in time to bus our middle school and our high school students. Some districts are not providing busing to away games. We are able to do that, and we will do that. In some cases where 2 buses would normally be used, we may need to use 3, and we are looking at whether or not we may need to discuss with the board the policy regarding parents transporting their students and or other students from games. I don't think we need that right now, but in the event that we have an issue and we don't have drivers, we might have to consider that as an option. But right now, it doesn't look like we will need to do that. There's a balance when you do things like that in terms of the safety involved in making sure all the kids are transported and have permission to be transported versus the some of the challenges with COVID where we might be short drivers or buses. So we'll just, right now we look like we're in good shape for that. All in all, the reopening is going rather well. There are some particular details that emerge every day that we're working through. We're in good shape as of this moment. We have only one positive case which the community is aware of, and that case is scheduled to clear I believe by the 28th of September. When we receive information from the county, it is organized into categories of positive cases, travel advisories, and contacts. So in the case of a positive case, individuals who've been identified as being in contact with that individual, which is with that person for 15 minutes or more within less than 6 feet, those students are quarantined. Right? Travel advisory is simply the county health department intervening, assessing the situation, and letting us know about it. So the data has been coming both verbally and in a report that we get, and that data has been matching up with what anyone in the community can see on the portal. And that concludes my report.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Simons. Any questions for Mr. Simons regarding the school reopening update or athletics at this time? And we'll still have an opportunity to go around the table and around the room, I should say, to have the board form comments from board members. Right. I just had one question. You answered my question about the busing, drop-off, pickup, and pick-off. How is it going with the virtual Wednesdays and other GCC and like St. Mary's, those programs that for students?
There's approximately 70 students at St. Mary's on virtual Wednesdays, and there's another 30 students at Janae. And during virtual Wednesdays, there are 3 teaching assistants assigned full-time to that program. On other days, there are 2. We are working with principals and classroom teachers on a spreadsheet so that we have a system for the teachers to communicate with the TAs during those days. Any questions that they may have, or TAs or students may have regarding assignments, any guidance in terms of how those teaching assistants can help the children with their remote work, and information on the office hours of the teachers so that if the TA had a question, they would know a time that they could contact the child's teacher with that question when the teacher was available. It's taking us a little bit to get that in place because the enrollment within the program has fluctuated a little bit. Okay. We're only in the 2nd virtual Wednesday, but at a meeting with the principals tomorrow, we're going to talk about how that process would work so that there's a connection between the teachers assigned to the students and the TAs that are providing the support at those programs.
Okay, great. Just one final question, maybe Mr. McHugh or maybe one of our elementary principals can help me out. In the springtime when we were out there, one of the concerns with elementary students was the amount of work that was being done, or kids getting done with their work pretty quickly. How is that going this year in terms of some of our elementary students who are home on their days and the workload or the amount of things they can do?
So it's a little tricky.
Sure.
Speaking to our teachers, it's a different way of thinking and a different way of planning.
Yep.
For example, today was a live virtual.
Yep.
And then they'll have their A students tomorrow. They won't see them again until Monday. So with our youngest learners, they have to our teachers really, it takes a lot of planning. Like the planning is really highly valued because you have to figure out what has to go home with those students on Thursday and what has to go home on the students on Friday, so that they have the work for those remote days and that they're prepared with whatever materials they need for live virtual Wednesday. So they're getting better at it.
Okay.
I applaud our teachers because I think people are working incredibly hard, but we're going to get better at it. I think we got better at it each day, but it does take some real figuring out,
Sure.
For example, you set a packet home on a Thursday with a student with work for them to do on Friday and maybe the next week. And there'll be a couple students that do it all that night.
Yep, right.
And then there may be a student that you're not connecting with in a remote format. So you have to follow through and reach out to the homes. So it's a challenge, but they're working at it, and it's not for a lack of effort. I think folks are getting better at it each day.
Okay. Thanks. Anyone want to comment? The elementary principals that are out there? I see Helen. How about you, Helen?
I would agree with Mr. McHugh. I think there's always going to be a little bit of a Goldilocks factor where you'll have some parents who say it's too much, some who say it's too little, and
Sure.
most that say it's just right. But I think our teachers, had a good experience figuring that out in our last spring closure. So to date, I have heard nothing but positives, and the work seems just right so far at Red Mill. So we're hearing
Excellent.
good feedback.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else, or you good? I see Wayne, you popped up on the screen.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that I think what Helen said is correct. Our teachers have done a tremendous job. I've seen a lot of growth in them in just the past week, from last Wednesday to this Wednesday, coming up with new and innovative ways to get the students involved, making phone calls on a regular basis to those kids that aren't engaged. I think Mr. McHugh nailed it right on the head, saying the teachers are working extremely hard, just as everyone else in the district. Our SRP staff, CSEA, transportation, central administration, principals, we're all doing this to really help each other out and burden the load to make it the best that it can for our families and our kids. And I have to say that, just like Helen said, our parents have been tremendous. They understand what we're doing as a community for our kids, and they get it. And they've been extremely supportive of everything that's come out of, I think, all of our schools. So thank you to the community for their continued support.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Goodnon. And I think it's important as we go into the hybrid model, we talk about, the challenges that presented for elementary student and our families. And I'm pleased to hear that it's going well, off a good start, and it'll get better, like Mr. McHugh said. So thank you. One thing, another comment too about the fact that we move our students through the hallways, which I think was an excellent idea, because the issue of students being in a classroom and the teachers moving and being in a classroom for hours at a time, it really gives the feeling that you're may as well do a student at home. So what's the point sometimes? So that was something that we've heard recently too. So I think that taking that on as challenging as that was, helps with the socialization part of school to support our students. And I think they really appreciate that too. So, hearing the student council and talking about some of the glad to be back and the positivity, that was really, really encouraging to hear. So good to hear. So that's, I'm rambling on a little bit. So I'll turn over to the board members for the board forum. We'll start on my left with Jennifer Massey. Anything, Jennifer? Very good. Mr. Dunn, good to see you live and in person. Thank you for coming.
I just wanted to make a comment about the reopening and
Sure.
something that Jim, you spoke to, is communication. Communication in these difficult times is probably one of the most critical elements to make sure that our families and students and staff understand what the objective is and what the goal is. Thank you. And most importantly, recognizing that everybody in our district, because we're diverse and have a lot of different things going on, people communicate in different ways, whether it's a language barrier, an educational barrier, a disability barrier. I think with us recognizing that we have to provide and reach people in the medium that they can understand, and relying on the child to either communicate to the parents, you don't know if you're going to get the truth all the time. So I really am very happy to hear, because that was one of the concerns that I hear regularly, is people don't know what to expect. And I think as we go down the road in this experiment, because it's really what it is, it's our messaging, and are we reaching people? And I think the obligation to us is to identify the people we are not communicating with earlier, rather than, and you use the example of somebody who does their homework all in 2 days and then disappears. Well, even though they might be doing the work, the fact that they're not engaging, that's just as of a value to the system. So I'm very happy to hear that we're reaching and recognizing all the different ways that we can address some of these issues. So thank you for that effort on behalf of our school community.
Thank you, John. Mark?
I know there's been a couple school districts, one in particular, that has opted out of sports. Is that, have you heard of any more? I mean, is that going to affect scheduling? Is something that...
There was a there was a request by 2 districts to have a suburban council superintendent's meeting the week before we were scheduled to start. And that request came from Boston Spa and Bethlehem. Those 2 districts indicated that they were only going to offer certain low-risk sports, such as swim and tennis. The majority of the suburban councils either had made up their mind prior to that meeting and or after that meeting that we were going to offer both low and moderate sports. So I believe all but 2 in the suburban council at the junior varsity and varsity level are offering everything that we're offering right now. Some of the reasoning was that the health and safety benefits of kids participating in sports and the ability of the district to ensure that their coaches and their department could implement those New York State Department of Health and Public High School Athletic Association guidelines safely. We felt that we could. Shen felt that they could. Burn Hills, Boston Lake thought that they could. North Colony, South Colony. And so we went forward. We still had questions about modified, and we indicated to our families that we would have a registration process, but we would hold off until we got JV and varsity started. Based on the data that we have right now regarding the number of students that are interested in modified, it's very low. There are probably enough students that would want to have a soccer program at the modified level and 14 field hockey, but no other kids. So our recommendation is going to be not to do modified and to work with the community groups such as Greenbush Soccer to have a soccer program, and they have offered to work with us on that, and then the intramural program that we have talked about. So the majority of the districts in the suburban council are doing low and moderate sports. The other factor was we didn't believe that anything would be remarkably different regarding the situation to push some of those moderate sports to an early spring season. We didn't think much would change, and between now and then regarding COVID and regarding the requirements, so we thought we could do it. So we're doing it, and the majority of the districts in the suburban council are doing it under an understanding that everybody has to cooperate with the expectations, and so far that's happening.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Deanna, you're good. Kathleen.
I just want to say, John's talking about communication, being out and about in the community, gotten a lot of communication, and all of it's good. I have heard nothing but very good remarks, and it's come from teachers, it's come from staff in the school, it's come from students. Everything has been wonderful. I was told today to give a special shout out to Peter Goodwin and his staff, because they said they can't even imagine being Peter, but he has been very responsive to everything, and they're just thrilled to death. They're thrilled to be back. The one comment that made me laugh was, I had really low expectations going in, and it's going great. A parent talked to me about their child who's doing full remote, and they are doing full remote with a teacher not from their home elementary school. And the parent is absolutely thrilled, said, is kind of whispering because the neighborhood people were out. And the parent said, I think he might be getting more than the other kids, but I don't want to say that out loud. So everything that we've been hearing has been very, very positive in the community. And that has taken so much work from everybody. So thank you. And again, Peter, they said especially thank you twice. So
Great. Thanks, Kathleen. Joanne, you're good? Frank, how about you? You're good. Okay. And we'll have another opportunity later in the meeting to board forum. I do want to I do want to go back just quickly if there's any emails, Linda. Sorry to put you on the spot, but in case there's one or two. There are a couple. Okay. Just so I don't want to have them to wait through the whole board meeting if we can answer some of those questions or hear their comments.
Okay, we have 2 emails.
Okay.
Both from Eric Blaustein, who is a senior at Columbia. My question is why students in the high school are being allowed to enter the building without filling out the COVID screening form.
There's two questions. You want to give me both of them or want me to?
He's got 2, so.
It came in separately. The second question is, my question is, why did the statement about students eating lunch at the beginning of a class if they didn't have a lunch wasn't discussed in the reopening meetings?
As far as students entering the high school having not done the screening, there are situations where, and I've observed them myself, where students are coming in and they've had a problem with the screening. They may have clicked yes on one and found that they made an error. So what has been happening is either Mr. Harkin or staff have been pulling them aside and either assisting them with that or calling the parent and assisting them with that. The other factor that contributed to it, I mentioned earlier, which was in some cases the data was inaccurate. So we're giving somewhat of a grace period for the kids to get used to doing it. It's gotten better. I know one day there were all but, I think it was about 95% of the students had done it last week. We're using reminders. Secretaries are calling the parents, and we're just trying to reinforce to do it. So at some point in time, if it's not done, the students will have to go home. But as all procedures, we're trying to make sure that it's a teaching opportunity for the kids as well. The screening in combination with the masks, in combination with the social distancing, in combination with the washing your hands, and the temperature checks all work together. It's not one in and of itself that's foolproof. It's all of it working together to address safety. So yes, there are some situations where kids are being permitted to go to class, but we're following up with them and making sure that they're doing it on the following days. I'm not sure I understand the lunch question. Could you ask it again?
My question is, why did the statement about students eating lunch at the beginning of a class if they didn't have a lunch wasn't discussed in the reopening meetings?
They don't have a lunch period. I'm assuming that's what he means.
Okay, so students that don't have a lunch period are able to eat lunch in class. I'll have to talk to Mr. Harkin about that in particular, but there are situations where kids are taking a full schedule and don't have an assigned lunch period, and it has been our practice. How frequently that's going on and how prevalent that is and how it's being done, I'll have to talk to Mr. Harkin about.
Okay,
Great.
I'll forward that email to both of you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Good questions.
That's it.
So that concludes our board forum superintendent report section. We'll move on to discussion items. So on the discussion items, Mr. Simons and I were talking about if you could open up the Board of Education meeting schedule. Given the circumstances, we do feel that it would be important to visit our buildings that had construction project work and see some of those, have some tours, do our meeting from those places because we will have the tours, but also know that this is probably the best way to arrange our meetings and continue with the library locations. If things shift or change, we can always modify the location schedule again. Okay, if that's okay with the board members. Any comments about that? I do want to see some of the work that's happened. I mean, they spend a lot of time and energy and obviously funds to do that kind of work, and I'd like to see the results. So I think we're good to go. Do we need to approve the changes all?
Yeah,
Resolution on the agenda?
we wanted to just change the location. I've made the principals aware that we were going to consider
Just the
this.
location. So I don't
The
think.
Red Mill, the Green Meadow are changes in location. Golf was already scheduled on the 18th. So the changes are only October 7th and October 21st. The location would move to Red Mill
Okay.
and Green Meadow. I think it was supposed to be DPS and Belltop.
Okay.
But we changed it because Green Meadow and Red Mill and Golf are where the capital project phase 2 occurred this summer.
So just a location change, not a meeting date change. So I think we're good then. All right, everyone's good? All right. We'll now move to committee reports. We'll start with Marissa.
Our Code of Conduct Committee met at the end of August to discuss new policies in regards to masks and social distancing and how that would be applied fairly to our Code of Conduct. And we started off the meeting noting that there is a large educational component to this, and our staff, our administrators, and our parents, we all have to work together and educating our students on proper hygiene and wearing a mask and social distancing appropriately, and making sure that we're providing helpful reminders along the way, especially to our little ones. Mr. Adam did a wonderful job making informational videos on social distancing in hallways and standing on your marker. He did an excellent video with some of our summer school students on how to socially distance and wear a mask on the bus and how we sit next to the windows. And then also, taking a mask break during class and that you're allowed to have a drink of water. So all of those videos went out to our parents, and those were all important tools for the educational component. We talked about our mask supply and how that was going to be dispersed to all of our schools. And we made sure that we dispersed masks, both adult face coverings and child face coverings, to all of our school buildings. And we have enough in each of those buildings in case there was an event where a mask broke and a child needed a new one, if someone just forgot their mask that day. So we worked closely with Paul Bickle to make sure that all of our staff and students do have an adequate supply. And we continue to stay in communication with our head custodians and our administrators to make sure we keep providing them with additional PPE as needed. We discussed where we might handle an infraction in our code of conduct if someone was refusing to wear a mask or refusing to social distance appropriately. And our committee agreed that it can be addressed as insubordination, which is a level 1 infraction for both our K-8 students and our 9-12 students, and just the importance of making sure if we are giving those helpful reminders and they're still not following through with what they need to do, we handle that fair and consistently, getting an administrator involved, letting them know of the situation, and then contact with mom and dad after that. There are concerns about, what if a student had a need not to wear a mask, and it was communicated to all of our Code of Conduct members and our staff that they would need to provide the appropriate medical exemption. And as Mr. Simon stated earlier, we have about three students right now that have that medical exemption, and our staff have been made aware who those 3 individuals are. We commented on how well summer school went in terms of the social distancing and the mask wearing practices. And it went very well, and currently it's going very well in all of our schools, in our central office. And we ended the committee meeting with just mentioning and noting the importance of continuing to review those CDC guidelines and Department of Health guidelines. So if we need to meet again as a Code of Conduct Committee, we will certainly do that. I also want to provide a brief update on our vacancies. For instructional, we have 1 elementary 2nd grade position open at Belltop that, as of this morning, had 63 candidates. The posting closes tomorrow, 9/24. We currently have 2 full-time teaching assistant positions, one at Columbia High School and the other at Goff. We have a total of 19 candidates applied as of this morning, and that posting also closes tomorrow. And we have 4 part-time teaching assistant positions district-wide from our elementary level up to our secondary level. We have 6 candidates for that, and that posting closes tomorrow as well. For our non-instructional positions, we did have to repost the COVID coordinator position. We had appointed an individual, and unfortunately they had an unforeseen circumstance, so their appointment will be rescinded on the personnel memo tonight on the consent agenda. There are a total of 3 candidates, all of which have the appropriate nursing license, and that posting closes on September 24th. We have a senior typist position in our building and grounds department. That position has 8 candidates that have applied. The posting closed on September 22nd. This position will be a provisional appointment. Once interviews are conducted and a candidate is selected, there is no eligible list through civil service as of now. And lastly, we have a senior monitor position at Goff Middle School due to a late resignation. We have 2 candidates that have applied. The posting has closed today, and we are finding it difficult to attract candidates for some of our monitor positions. Does anyone have any questions?
Questions? No? Thank you, Marissa.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Move to Linda. Anything?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Monday evening, the 21st, we had our first BRAC meeting, and that gave me a chance to introduce myself to some of the people on the committee that I had not met before. We reviewed the committee meeting dates, and we talked about some tentative budget workshop dates. I explained to them that the board has not had the opportunity yet to see the budget calendar. We're kind of waiting on that just in case there are any changes to the process as there was last year. We also talked about and reviewed some of the COVID-19 expenses that the district has faced and continues to face, which I am preparing a report for the board on the specifics of those expenses. We spoke also about in the recent news, the difference between there has not been a cut in state aid and the fact that we have received 20% less in our receivables from June 30th. So it does have an effect on us. We're hoping that it's not permanent, but to date, we have a shortage of $315,000 from what we expected as of June 30th. And then we did talk about future meetings and about some ideas for the future, what the committee would like to see. And our next meeting is scheduled for October 5th. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. We'll move to Jim, passing the microphone. Very good.
2 committee reports. First one is Committee for Curriculum Study. We had our first meeting on September 9th. As always, the first meeting of the year, we talk about the organizational guidelines so people really understand the purpose of CCS. We reviewed the schedule for the year. CCS was conducted through Google Meet. We still had 41 members in attendance, so I thought that was important to note. We talked about the current status of our program reviews last year: English language arts, science, special education and related services. And because last year, with COVID, we were forced to go full remote in March, those 3 program reviews were not completed. So we talked about really resetting, catching our breath, finishing those 3 program reviews this year, and resetting the schedule. So we didn't want to add 3 additional program reviews and have a total of 6 going on, especially this year. In addition, we talked about some new novels, both in the middle school and high school, and some of the English classes, and teachers provided a summary of those new novels. And I recommended a few years ago that even new novels get funneled through CCS, so we have a record of it, and we know what literature is being used in those courses. So in addition to that, our mentor steering committee met as well on September 9th. That was also done through Google Meet. Melissa Gilligan shared out the feedback from last year's mentor steering program, and that's always a breath of fresh air, because the comments we hear from our new hires, but What's even more rewarding is the comments we hear from our veteran teachers that are our mentors. It's almost a sense of renewal for some of those folks to refocus a little bit. So always a positive way to start the year. We have 7 new teachers joining us in East Greenbush this year that require mentoring. I went back as far as 2011 in the archives, and 6 of our 7 mentors are veteran teachers. This is their first opportunity at mentoring. So I thought that was neat as well, that we have 6 new mentors supporting our new hires this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for Jim? All right. Great work. Mr. Simons, anything?
I have nothing further other than to mention that the first meeting of the safety committee this year will be October 5th. We sent out a reminder today, and the agenda will follow soon. One of the things we're going to have to talk about is how safety drills are going to be done. Our evacuation drills and our lockdown drills, as you know, not all of the students are here every day. So we're going to talk about that within our administrative team tomorrow. Mr. Tooker and I talked about it today, but we want to have a discussion with the safety committee about what we're doing to be in compliance with the guidelines and best practices about going about that under our hybrid model.
Great. I just had a quick question, kind of piggyback on something that Marissa said about masks. Can you just give a quick update about how we look for like resupply, PPE, things like that? Masks or hand sanitizer, those kinds of supplies. I mean, we're a couple weeks in, and
So we are right now, we're making sure each building has enough. And then when they start getting low on a quantity, our head custodians would alert the principal to that. We can put in additional supply orders, but first we want to check in with our central receiving because a large majority is being stored in there now. So that's being constantly checked on. And Mr. Bickle, he is the individual that would place the additional orders for PPE. So I think we're looking at it weekly, wouldn't you say, Linda?
Okay. Inventory levels are good?
Daily.
And we got a good news delivery from Questar Boschis today that you're not aware of, Marissa, Linda. So if you want to talk about that, we received large quantities of PPE from Questar through their relationship with the county.
We did. We actually received large quantities of masks and gowns, and there was something else we received. But we're going to put that on to the next board agenda so that you can see the generous donation we received.
That's great. All right. Good. Thank you.
I think it was in the neighborhood of 600 masks or something of that nature.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Large delivery.
500 gowns.
Yes.
Good. Good to see PPE supplies are back around now. That concludes our committee reports. We'll go on to the approval of the draft minutes. Any questions, comments, revisions on the draft minutes? Mr. Dunn was not present at that time, so seeing no changes or revisions, need a motion to approve the minutes. Kathleen, second. Jennifer, all those in favor? All those abstaining? Mr. Dunn, approved. Now moving to approval of programs for resident children with disabilities. Any questions or comments? I need a motion to approve that. Joanne, second. John, all those in favor? Approved. Reports and presentations does contain a first reading of policy that we want to move off the agenda. If that's that, we want to move that to the policy committee first. So we'll remove that from the agenda if there's no objections on that one. That has to do with the cameras in classroom and part of our,
I'll send that out in an email and invite some feedback to the policy committee tomorrow. And I thank you for pointing out the error in the process, Mrs. Massey, because I'm new as the policy coordinator and it got lost in transition, so I appreciated it. No, I missed it.
So
I missed a step.
no problem. We'll get that to the committee. We do have a second reading of policies. Is there any questions or comments? Mr. Simons, you have not received any comments, I guess?
No, I've received no comments on the 2D policies.
All right, very good. So I need a motion to approve the policies at second reading. Kathleen, I need a second. Oh, Jennifer, all those in favor? Approved. No other reports and presentations at this time. I think that's what you had said earlier, right? Table motions, I have nothing. Old business, board members, anything that you'd like to bring up this time that we discussed in the past? Nothing? Okay. Yes, Jennifer. The question is on the NISBA virtual convention. I know, Jennifer, you signed up, I believe. I signed up for some. Frank, Joanne. So I think we were.
Everyone has been registered.
Great.
And I apologize. I was told information went out to you, but I will confirm that tomorrow and have it resent.
Okay, very good. All right. So check your emails. Moving to the consent agenda. Any questions, comments regarding the items A through G that are on the agenda? Mr. Dunn.
Separate section C for a separate vote.
Item C, section, separate vote. Joanne, I saw Steve as a volunteer coach. Do we need to move anything off that, or is that an issue? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's not a paid position, so you're not benefiting from that. I just have, so we'll move item C for separate vote. Anything else? Comments, questions? Yes. F. Item F, separate vote. Okay. Any questions or comments on that? Nope. I just want to make a comment on the gifts and donations. I want to thank Ms. Smith for the generous $1,000 donation for PPE for the district. That was very, very nice gesture. And of course, Martin Harding Mazzati for their generous donation to the backpack program. So with that, we have a consent agenda, items A through G, except for item C and item F. Anything else? Motion approved. Kathleen, a second. Deanna, all those in favor? That's approved. Going to item C. I need a motion to approve that. Jennifer, I need a second. Joanne, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Mr. Dunn, abstaining? Approved. Item F, any questions or comments on that? I need a motion to approve the SRP memorandum of agreement. Kathleen, I need a second. John, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Mr. Mann, abstaining. Approved. That concludes our consent agenda, and we'll move to new business. Board members, any new business? No. Just checking off my list here, nothing. Okay. Moving to our second public forum. Linda, put you on the spot again. No new emails. All right. Our second board forum, I'll start on my right with Frank. Anything, comments, questions? You're good? Okay. Joanne, Kathleen.
In my whole litany, I did forget one thing that I heard. There was also great appreciation for the fact that the board voted to have school start a little bit late, giving faculty and staff time to train. I heard that was time very well spent and has been utilized quite a bit, and they wanted to thank Jim McHugh for doing such a great job. Like I said, it's been all good stuff. I've been hearing like all this good stuff.
Did we mention Peter?
And Peter, yes, and Peter, yes.
Great. Thanks, Kathleen. Deanna, you're good. Mark, you're good. John, thumbs up. Jennifer, you're good. All right. Just want to comment, it's a great meeting. And one thing I just want to mention, the board calendar, and we'll talk about this down the road. Mr. Simons and I were talking about a board retreat, potentially in later October between one of our meetings to plan some things around the following year, this current year, I should say. So we'll get some dates out to people around the end of October between board meetings, because I think it's important to revisit current goals, and then this past year, obviously, and then some things, again, probably streamlined quite a bit given what we're going through, and then but some things we want to focus on for this year in line with what we're going through. So just keep that in mind. More to come. So we do have a need for an executive session for purposes of current litigation and matters involving personnel. So that concludes our meeting for those of you who are live streaming, and we'll have our executive session right here. I need a motion to move into executive session. Jennifer, second. Kathleen, all those in favor? Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.